Hello and welcome to the video. Today we're going to be looking at Square stock, ticker symbol SQ, which is up around 300% since its March lows of around $38, $40, 20th of March it shows there, all the way up to $133 as of the close of play yesterday. If you watched my portfolio update video a few weeks ago, you would have seen me talk about the likelihood of a potential Square breakout following its share price reaching a resistance level of roughly $100, which it hit here on sort of the 19th of June, sorry. So a couple of weeks ago, it's a level which it's hit on a number of previous occasions, the first being September 2018, and this time there was obviously a strong likelihood that once it hit that level and it surpassed it, that it could go on to make new all-time highs, and that has proved to be the case. So in this video we're going to be looking at Square stock, what the company does, what it offers, and whether this valuation is justified, whether you should be buying the stock now or whether it's slightly overpriced. Okay, so what does Square do? So they started off by offering a sort of payment terminal, which is this point here. So that is, a point of sale system. So whether that be contactless payment via a card, they have their terminal, which is a dashboard in the software which collects your transaction data and history and compiles it all into a very easily manageable software solution. So it was aimed at small businesses to allow them an efficient way to take payments and compile their data as a small business. And that sort of developed into what they now call their ecosystem. So they have their developer platform, they have specialist pieces of software for restaurants and for retail, which cater specifically for the different needs of those kinds of businesses. They've expanded that further and they now offer, as I say, this ecosystem which provides ability for them to manage things like payroll on the systems. So they can manage all their colleagues' pay, whether it's going up, whether it's going down, when they're getting paid, how much. They can manage invoices, so payment to suppliers, receiving and sending. They've also got a customer engagement feature on there, appointments, e-commerce, so they can basically manage their entire business from this platform, or the vast majority of it. One of the key additions has been Square Capital, which has basically given their customers the ability to borrow money off them as a traditional bank would. So they're providing loans to their customers. Now you might be saying, well, why would a customer take a loan from Square, a fairly new startup, in comparison to, say, an established bank? Well, there's actually quite a few reasons and it makes quite a compelling case. So for starters, Square will already know whether that business needs a loan or not. For example, if that business is got growing revenues, growing profits, but it's operating at capacity, Square will know that because they see all the transaction data because of their virtual terminal and their point of sale software. They can then offer that business a loan and say, have you thought about doing this? We could lend you whatever it is, 5, 10, 15, 25,000 pounds. You could set up a second location, you could expand where you are, you could take on more staff. So they know before a bank would whether that business would want or benefit from a cash injection. So instead of a customer having to go to a bank to ask for it, they can recommend it. So that immediately puts them one step ahead. Secondly, as I just mentioned, they know about that business, they know the transaction data, they know if they're doing well, they know how much that business can afford to pay back, whether they need a loan in the first place, how much that loan should be for. So instead of that small business having to go to a bank and justify the loan, tell them what they need and provide a load of data, Square have already got that, so they can very quickly look, assess the application and determine whether that loan is a good decision or not. And then thirdly, again building on those first 2 points, it makes it a lot quicker, cheaper and more efficient for the small business to take the loan out with Square because of the 2 points previously mentioned. They know if it's a good investment, they can make that decision very quickly and they can transfer the money probably within days into the bank account, as opposed to a bank which would probably have loads of paperwork, red tape to go through, and then it would probably take weeks, if not months, to get that money through. And then finally, in terms of paying back that loan, ordinarily you'd have to set up a repayment plan with a bank, which would be very rigid. You'd have your interest rate, you'd have your repayment dates, and you'd be expected to meet those dates. With Square, you have an option to pay back your loan via your transactions. For example, if you're a coffee shop and you're charging £3 for a coffee and you want to pay, say, 2% back per transaction. That would be 6p per transaction, goes back to paying back that loan without you even having to think about it. If your business drops, for example, maybe during the summer months your business isn't as good, then you're paying less back on your loan. Whereas at peak periods, when you're doing really well and the business is trading well, then you pay back slightly more. So it's a lot more flexible and gives a small business the ability to pay back more and less depending on how the business is doing, something which banks could not offer ordinarily. So you can really start to see the value in the Square ecosystem and how it can be so useful for small businesses in managing and growing their company. The other side of Square's business is the Cash App, which I think is actually number one on the App Store at the moment. And this is another really interesting aspect of their business and is an area which they're seeing lots of growth in at the moment. So the Cash App basically acts as a bank account that has a load more features, basically. So you can direct deposit into the account and it'll hold it like a bank account would. It has a cash card, just like you would have a debit card or a credit card, which you can use to make payments from the money held in your account. It also has a stocks section, so you can make investments on the stock market. It has fractional shares, just like some of the trading platforms do, such as Trading 212, the one I use, so you can make stock investments on the Cash App. It then has a Bitcoin section, and Jack Dorsey, the CEO of the company, is big on Bitcoin, which is, for those that don't know, it's like an internet cryptocurrency. And you can pay for things and make payments using Bitcoin on the platform, assuming the other person you're selling to is prepared to take that as a currency. The idea being, when the platform grows and a lot more people are using it, it's a lot more sort of widely adopted, Bitcoin will become a very frequently used currency, and in Jack Dorsey's view, it will become the sort of internet currency of the future. What catches on yet is, a controversial subject. It's not for me. Whether it does catch on or not, time will tell. But that's why it's there, and they have seen really good growth in this area of the business. So the long-term vision for the Cash App is for it to almost replace bank accounts, and I think it is a worry for the big banks. It's probably at its early stages, so they're not overly concerned, but if it starts to grow, it could really start to gain market share and compete with traditional banks and their accounts. As people just hold money within the Cash App, there is potential for employees to pay people into their Cash App, and this would be the primary source of where people manage and look after their money. If their salaries are being paid into here, they can use payments out of it by Bitcoin or on the card. They can invest in stocks on this, so there's really no reason to have any other accounts, assuming this really starts being widely used, widely adopted. It could be massive. If we scroll down here, you can see how the sort of growth of A, the company, but B, the Cash App is really starting to take off for Square. So in 2017, the Cash App only accounted for $47 million of revenue. That more than 4x'd in 2018 to nearly 200 million, and again it's more than 2 times in 2019 to 450. So we'll see how that growth continues into 2020. We'll need to wait for the full year to see how it compares, but I expect it to carry on growing at really good levels. You can see the blue section here, which is the seller gross profit, which is all this stuff on here. The seller side of the business is continuing to see really strong growth and is now producing revenues of nearly 1.4 billion as of last year. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that coming close to 2 billion in 2020, which is huge. And as there was a concern that with the pandemic going on, that a lot of small businesses would struggle, and maybe that would affect what is the proportion of Square's capital. But I think more than anything, a lot of people are turning to innovation. They're turning to companies such as Square to help innovate and to help save costs and to maybe move away from some of the traditional, more labour-intensive and more inefficient ways of doing things. And they're looking to apps and companies like this to help streamline their business and make things more efficient. And I think Square is definitely doing that, and it's showing in their profit margin so far. So moving back to the charts, is Square a buy at the moment, or is the price just got a little bit too far ahead of itself? Well, so as you can see here, if you saw in my last video, there was a really clear line of resistance roughly here where it had hit on this occasion, it hit here again, here in February 2020, and then it reached that level following the crash, bounced back really quickly to reach that level. The second level of resistance was here, where we first peaked in 2018. So upon breaking that first level of resistance, it was important to see whether it was also going to break this one, and as soon as it got past this mark, which was roughly $100, which is a bit of a mental barrier as well, and it sort of consolidated around this mark, there was a good chance it was going to break out, and if it did, the sky's the limit really, which is what we saw last week. In trading today, we are in market trading hours. It's consolidated a little bit again, as you can see. It did here, starting to see that sort of pattern again, and of course no one knows whether it's going to pull back. I definitely don't see it going any lower than $100. If it gets anywhere near that level, I would suggest it is a strong buying opportunity. Of course, it could go higher, and there's no reason why it can't kick on even further and head towards that $150 mark. My best guess would be some consolidation. Maybe it'll drop to roughly the 120 mark, and then we'll see it carry on going further. As we looked at earlier in the video, this is a fantastic company. It's got some really good growth prospects. You can see the appeal for small businesses, you can see the appeal for individuals, and as it really starts to gain traction in the market and that user base increase, you can see it really start to take business off banks with the Cash App and Square Capital lending money, and it could really become a key player. And I label it as a sort of financial tech stock, and if you've watched any of my previous videos, you'll know that I think tech stocks have broken out from their own sort of subsector, and tech stocks are really taking over a lot of the other traditional industries. And Square is one of those. It's a fintech stock similar to PayPal, which I think is really going to grow over the next 5-10 years and start taking market share off some of those big banks. Yeah, and that optimism is shown in the share price. So, as I say, if it pulls back to anywhere near 100, great buying opportunity, but there's absolutely no reason why it won't kick on even further from here. I see it consolidating, but time will tell. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate your support with a like on the video, hit that subscribe button to see more videos from me. I will be doing a portfolio update video probably tomorrow, if not Wednesday. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get notified when I release that video, and you can see how my portfolio is currently performing. Otherwise, see you in the next one.